Okay, so welcome everyone to the third presentation, how to write a killer book review. It's a complement. I'm going to focus only on the book review, which is one way of publication. And as Dr. Ali said, that we have many, and thank you for this amazing chart that you presented of not only going for scholarly articles in journals or book chapters, but rather than you have amazing opportunities out there for you to vary your publications or the kind of publications. I'm going to share my experience about writing book reviews. It is really a thing that I love, to get that book, read the book, and write a big book review about it. I had the chance to be a part or a member of reading groups. So we had to sit with our colleagues in reading groups during the summer, select a book that has to do with teaching approaches, techniques in education, read the book, and come up with a reading review afterwards. Okay, can you see me? Is my camera on?
No.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, your voice is on, your audio is on, and your video is off.
Okay, so let me.
Yeah.
The camera is on. My camera is on, so it must be something.
No, it's off. It's off. The audio is on.
As
the
long
video.
as
Okay, good.
There you
Good
go.
now.
Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna share again here. Okay, so my experience is about 3 books. So you can say 3 years. Each summer we got one book. I selected a book with our colleagues and we did the book review together. So the first book was about disruptive classroom technologies. And just briefly speaking about the content of the book is that it offers a new framework to alleviate instructional practices with technology and maximize student learning. The special thing about it that attracted me is that the T3 framework that helped teachers or categorize the students' learning as transformational, translational, transformational, or transcendental, sorting through the low impact applications to reach high impact usage of technology. While the second book, it's called Shift This. Shift This is educator and speaker, written by educator and speaker Joy Kerr. He identifies in this book how to make gradual shifts in your thinking, in your teaching, and approach to classroom design that will have a massive impact in the teacher's classroom. So you would learn in this book how to shift learning to make it more authentic and student-led. In the third book, Rethinking Teacher Education, the main aim of this book is to invite a readership to continue a reflective conversation on how we educate the future teachers to meet the challenges of the 21st century. So that was just a brief summary about the content of these 3 books. So we started to sit together as colleagues and to write a book review. The beauty about this process was that we collaborated together to write the book review from different disciplines' point of view. That enriched the book review. I'm going to briefly also define what's a book review. It provides a deep analysis of the text. It's not only a summary, and examine the contents of the book. It retells the story, but more it evaluates. It tells the story of the book, but it also evaluates it and decides whether the book is something that would be recommended to other readers who did not read the book yet. The content or the book summary. Now we're going to address the content of the review. Definitely there should be a book summary, and the summary would assume that you assume that your audience do not know the content of the book, and you're going to address the main topics and ideas of the book. You're going to explain why the topics and the ideas of the book matter in this part. Then you could move to the significance of the book to teaching. I gave here an example because I live in the UAE and I teach in the university in Abu Dhabi. So it's my book review was targeted towards the audience where I teach. So that's why here you would see the Gulf region. So in your case, if you want to write the significance of the book in the context of where you are teaching or the audience, targeted audience. So what makes the book unique in this section It's important to mention that. And what is its contribution to the profession, to the teaching? Then you relate the significance of the contribution to the targeted audience, whether they are in the Gulf region or other areas or countries. In the next section, or the content of the book review, it seems I've jumped several slides here. The targeted readers. Always think of who's going to read the book. You recommend the book to which targeted audience, which targeted readers, so that when they read the book review, if they feel that the content is rich and it would help them, this would let them go and get the book and read it. So why should they read the book? What is the contribution? What would be the benefit also for them, the readers? And to what kind of reader is the book recommended to? The significance of the book in higher education, because we teach in higher education, this specific book that you are writing a book review on has to have a certain contribution to the field or to the context that you're teaching, and we are teaching in higher education. So it's good to address the following. How does the book help in teaching in higher education in the region? Bridging any gap. So if this book helps you to bridge the gap between the learning institution and the real life, this is really good to address. And reflections, if you have any reflections from educators, administration, or from the learners, the students themselves. Now here comes the part that is a little bit, you need to mention in case you feel that there are certain limitations that the book pose, or you felt as an educator, you have this critical eye, critical perspective of the content of the book. It is good to mention the limitations. And sometimes in the limitations you might mention, but definitely in a specific tone that we're going to discuss in a bit, the things that could not be applicable, or when applied in some cases had some certain limitations or drawbacks. Okay, so by the end of the review, you would mention here the book under study in your list of references, and the other reviews, in case other reviews were done on the book and you got use from them, you can also mention them, and also other references that are used, and you provide a support for the framework that is mentioned in the book. So all of these could be mentioned as references, as a list of references. So here comes the core, or the things that there are lots of things that I want you to avoid while writing a book review, but those are the most common things that I'm going to shed light on. So the first common mistakes that we do in a book reviewing, the first one is the repetitiveness and redundancy. This typically stems from the impulse that the reviewer is trying to make sure that the reader cannot possibly miss the insightful point he is making as a reviewer. So unfortunately, what happens is that the repetition actually signals the reviewer's insecurity. It shows the reviewer's insecurity if he keeps on repeating the argument, and thus undercutting the reader's confidence in him. So it is better to avoid it. The second common mistake is over-focusing on the plot. It shows that the reviewer is struggling to be critical. So therefore, the book or a book review should not just be a description of the plot, but you need to avoid just simply providing a full summary of the plot of the book. Instead, you need to discuss the major aspect of the plot so that your reader can get enough information so to whether the book is something that they think is worthy reading or not. Another point it's worth mentioning is the meaningless arguments. Meaningless arguments, this differs from being unclear. It's different from being unclear and is more about using the language that doesn't fit and creating sentences that don't cover the point that you were trying to make. To avoid doing this, you need to ask yourself or ask somebody else to read, not ask yourself, ask somebody else to read your work and answer any questions that they would pose. So this to avoid this common mistake. The other one is also avoid narcissism. I'll explain this for you. Usually in our writing, it is recommended that when you are reviewing a book, you want to avoid being narcissistic. So therefore, avoid using the word I and stay focused and what you are talking about. Add to that, you don't need to talk about yourself, as your name will be at the top of your book review. So it would be written there. No need to mention your name. Therefore, it's quite clear that the review is your opinion. So your review will have more authority and carry more weight if you've written it from a voice that doesn't sound personal. This takes us to the last common mistake that also could happen in book reviews, which is the length. You may be happy to write like 3,000 word book review, but it doesn't mean you should do that. So people don't have the time to read this amount of words. So I recommend, it was recommended also by others, to stick to 1,000 words if that's all, and that's all that it is needed to do the work and to communicate the effectiveness of the book. These are some of the references that I've used, and this is also my email and my name. So I hope that this brief, personal experience of writing book reviews could help others into an insightful chance into writing an effective book review. Thank you for listening to my presentation as well, which blends beautifully with the other presentations.